Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of the Student Art Podcast. The podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests in the film and game industries. If this is your first time here, though, and you want to learn how to grow as an artist and learn what it takes to make it as a career, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. From Fantastic Beasts, Black Panther to Men in Black, today on the show we have an amazing guest for you. We have senior character artist Crystal Brents with us. Crystal, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll be able to dive into your journey, you name it, all the amazing art you do, from realism, stylistic, and most importantly, folks, today's main topic is going to be from a senior's perspective. So she's a senior artist, and we're going to be talking about how do you become a senior? Like, what is the transition? How does that process take place, etc.? But we'll start off with a fun one, start off with good old introductions. Tell us a wee bit about yourself, and we'll take it from there, Crystal.
I am as you said, a senior character artist. Right now, I'm working at a VR studio. I am from Edmonton, Alberta. I work in Canada. I've jumped all over from Vancouver to Montreal. I like cats. That's a little more about myself.
Awesome, perfect. Got to love cats.
Yep. I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot to me, except I do a lot of 3D, and that's that.
That's great. So we're kicking off, folks, because I'm a dog person, but I do love cats as well. So it's
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love dogs.
Oh, you love dogs.
Them.
Wait, if you like cats, what cats do you have?
I have I mean, every cat owner doesn't actually know what kind of cat they have.
Okay.
It's just a cat with long hair.
And it's your best friend.
Yes, and his name is Elvis Pursley. So
awesome. You love to see it. Elvis Pursley, folks. Just the insight is coming on this podcast. Here, gosh, you've had me think of so many different things now, because I would love a pet right now. I don't have a pet, unfortunately. I would love a pet. I used to have dogs. Used to have King Charles Spaniels. I need to get a new pet. So in today's episode, like you said, we'll dive into everything character art. But one of the main questions I always like to start off with a podcast is, like, where did this journey begin? Like, when did you realize you wanted to do art as a career?
I guess back in junior high, like middle school, I guess, is when someone was like, "Oh, you kind of have to like pick a career to do for the rest of your life," and I was like, "Oh, you're not wrong, I do." And my I had, like, growing up, I had such good grades. My parents always thought I was going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. They were like, "Yeah, she's got honors. We're so proud of her. She's such a smart girl." And then I was like, no, I actually don't want to do that. I want to pursue art, and I want to find a way to get paid being an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a very I like to do research. I like to figure out every kind of aspect of everything. And I kind of figured that if I was going to be a fine artist, there's not a lot of money in that. And I was like, I can't make a living off that as much as I would enjoy it. So I kind of did a little bit of investigations. I actually went to like if you're not sure what you want to do, there's actually some colleges host these, like, before you graduate, you're kind of in your last grade before you graduate. You can go for like a summer program at a college, and some of them have these things. It's like an intro to game design or intro to 3D, stuff like that. So you can kind of test it out for like a crash course for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one of those in Kelowna. I think the college was called Cato. So I did that, and then it was for games, and I was like, I really, really liked this. It was actually a lot of fun. It was for level design, so it wasn't really artistic, but I liked the fact that I was learning more about games, and I played a lot of video games at the time, so I wanted to be involved in that somehow, some way. But then when I went to the course, I was like, I kind of want to be a part of like the art side of things and not necessarily this. So I went to a lot of meetings with a lot of colleges, asking their advice on what they think I should do in terms of like, what is the smartest choice? Like, what do you have the most career choices in if you choose this? So they recommended me to go to the visual effects 3D animation course at Vancouver Film School, only because they said their game design course is strictly for games. So if you take that course, you can't really have that whole option of visual effects if you decide to go down that path, because you've kind of specialized your career in games.
Yeah.
But they said that apparently it's easier to go point, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they both have their own path, but that's kind of how I did it. It's a very long, complex
Yeah.
path, but that's kind of how it happened. But I kind of just went with the flow. I kind of had an idea, games,
Mm-hmm.
investigated, kind of fell towards this path, I guess.
Awesome.
So
No, I
long
appreciate.
story.
Oh no, important story, important story. So thank you for sharing all of it, because you mentioned something there which I would have died for, and I think it's super important to highlight the importance of this, and because when we're younger, or going through secondary school, etc., we're always getting questioned. The question you got asked is like, what do you want to do for your career? What do you want to do for your career? And they keep asking you, they keep trying to figure it out, and understand why they do it. But it's the difficult thing though is that because it's always like it almost gets thrown at you last minute. So when you finish your secondary school, like you're almost, like you said, you're almost expected to find something. And the only downfall that through all my interviews and what I've learned, and obviously what you would have learned as well, is that it can cost a lot of money to just make that decision quickly, and it can really adds up over time. And I think it's great if there are those, like you said, like a course or like something that can help you kind of break things down. So you were saying about going to this course, and they were like, right, what do you want to do? And like, do you think there's not enough time given in secondary school for that transition, as in like figuring that big question out? Do you think there needs to be more focus on the actual jump between secondary and uni?
I think so. I think there also needs to be more information. Like, I mean, video games in 3D is something that people are not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on top of that, it's like people are always thinking like, "Oh, I want to be an artist." "Oh, well, you must be a dancer or a fine artist or teach an arts class at an art school. That's your only options, right?" But it's not true, right? Like the only reason why I knew to go down this path was because I was interested in games.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of did some investigating. On top of that, I went to an arts high school called Victoria School of the Arts in Edmonton because I was a dancer, and I wanted to take their dance classes, and they have that there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up having like an extra spare block, and I took this animation course, and I ended up being the only person in the class who actually took it seriously. So I got the
Okay.
best grades in the
Yeah.
class,
Perfect.
and I was like, this is actually fun. I'm not good at it by any means. Like, oh, it was awful, but it was fun to do. And I think that was the only reason why I got exposed to this world was because of that class. And like, I think that if there was more options for people who are just at regular colleges, or sorry, high schools, like that weren't just arts high schools, like people came around, gave talks, said like, "Hey, I work on movies. Look how cool this is," right? Like, not only that, but it also pays pretty well. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can actually have a life doing this, and you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people are always, especially in high school, they're stuck in this thought that like I have to do something boring to actually make something, you know, a good amount of money to support my family or whatever it's going to happen, right? And I feel like in the time, people who are students are always just thinking about, how can I make the most amount of money?
Yeah.
They're not like really thinking about, what's going to make them happy, or like, because that's the number one concern. They've made this world all about money, right? So everyone's always worried about if they're going to get a paycheck. But I think the biggest difference between my story was that I honestly, my parents always told me from a young age, they said, "Crystal, we want you to do something that's going to make you truly happy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to put pressure on you to pick a career that just makes you money. Because if you're not happy, this is what you're going to do every day for the rest of your life."
Yeah.
Think about that. Because unfortunately, they didn't have the same luxuries as me. They didn't get to graduate from high school, so they didn't have the option to pick their careers, right? So it was very important to them that I chose something that was going to make me happy over make me money. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's crucial, and I was the same as you. I was fortunate having my dad, because I've literally, what, in the last 4 years I went from film to games to teaching to full time podcasting, and it took me 14 moves to figure out that podcasting was the thing I wanted to do full time. And so just the same as you, like constantly moving, it's like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And it took all those years to figure it out. But it does, and I completely agree with you, it really does make a big difference if you have someone supporting you. And if you don't have someone supporting you, do what Crystal was saying and figure out, do the research. So maybe find someone who has the same passion as you and someone who can guide you in that right direction. So, a bit of a fun question. So, you mentioned games. What is your favorite game?
Oh, to this day, I mean, it's The Last of Us has always been my my
Okay,
favorite. But I
nice.
mean, if we're gonna go to old schools, I mean, Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, wow.
It's a difficult
I
question.
loved Spyro was actually my jam. I don't know
Yes,
why, but I
good
love
choice, good choice.
Spyro.
Yes, classic. Love Sparrow too.
um, there was a ton of games on this website that was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I think The Last of Us is still my top choice right now. I still have yet to come across something that's better.
Awesome. I still need to play the second one. Still I've fallen so far behind in the last 2 years, and it's just so funny. Is like I do a podcast about games and film, and yet I've basically had no chance to play any games. Like I've just been playing Call of Duty. That's literally all I've been playing, and it's like I love
That
it,
is
but
also one of those good ones.
oh,
I
it's
used to
so
play
good.
Modern Warfare like it was nobody's business.
Oh, it's a great game. Wait, have you played the new one?
No, I haven't played any of the like I've been like it's funny because when you get in visual effects, you kind of just get immersed in movies and TV shows and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of just put games to the side because they take a lot of time to complete and to do. So I kind of jump between the two. So sometimes I'm playing those games. Like right now I'm playing Fall Guys, but I only play it like I have to give myself a time limit. Okay, 30 minutes today. And
Okay,
that's it.
just 30 minutes. I feel your
Yeah.
pain. I feel your pain. But then again, what you were saying before we went live, so you're doing a lot of things. Like you're doing tons of freelance. You obviously got your main job as well, so it's obviously a balancing act. And we all learn how to hold our ground when the addiction comes around. I know we all want to play games all the time, but sometimes we just have to work it. Hopefully one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day. So
Also doing also doing student mentorships too. So on the side of all this,
you're
like
doing
it's
that as well. Oh gosh, right? I didn't even know that.
yeah, I meet up with students who are like graduated out of college
Mm-hmm.
and they need just like a mentor to push their art further, and we just do like an hour 45-minute sessions through like my patron. So like they
Mm-hmm.
sign up and I meet up with them once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever plan they've set up. But yeah, that's something else. So
Well, with that said, everyone tuning in, I will put the links of everything in the description below so you can go check these things out. Most importantly, her tutorial, she's done plenty, like so much work with Noman, etc. She's entered ArtStation challenges. She's done judging for the rookies. You name it, she's literally done everything. So we'll be able to talk about a lot of this and much more. But before we get into the senior talks, I kind of wanted to talk about your education side of things. So,
sure.
Vancouver. First of all, what's it like in Vancouver for education for art in general? Is there a lot of stuff going on, or what's it like?
There's a lot of places that you can go to. Well, basically, I mean, it's been a while since I've graduated. So, but back in Vancouver, I feel like there's tons of schools there to graduate from and to go to, and for especially 3D art and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But when I mean, during my time back at school, Vancouver Film School was the highest recommended one. And I actually was supposed to go to Kelowna at Cato. I was actually signed up for a 2-year program there, and I almost went, and then I saw an ad. Those damn Facebook ads.
Oh, okay.
They got me. And I saw that, like, I saw this, and I did some research, and because that's what I'm good at, and found out that they were like the highest recommended in Canada, and because I didn't want to go out of Canada, I went there and it was actually a really great course to take.
Mm-hmm.
I think nowadays they're not as high on the list. Like I think Think Tank in Vancouver is actually higher than them right now.
Okay.
In terms of like you can go to the Rookies, and Rookies has a school rating of like how good of a school, your school of choices,
Yeah.
in terms of career. Like basically, the way that they judge that is based on how many students get jobs afterwards. And that's what matters, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can spend all this money on your career, but are you going to get employed, right? Is that information useful?
Yeah.
So that's
I wonder.
hopefully answers
No,
that.
I appreciate it, because so I'm friends with Alwyn and Andrew, and it's a pleasure doing just talking with them and seeing what they do with the industry. But that's something I've not really talked about. It's the fact that, like, how many of them do actually get you jobs, and like how many students are actually being successful. I do wonder though, how do they gather that data? Like, I wonder how they've I know they've done it for nearly so they've done the rookies obviously for 10 years, but I'm pretty sure they've been building it for like 15 years. It'd be great to see what their process is to figuring all that information out. I'll need to ask them to come back on the podcast and bombard them with that question, because it's something that like, it goes back to the main point that you said that you're really good at, and it's something that more students should be good at, and that's research. The amount of money, like, people have wasted, the amount of students over the years, it's probably like millions, billions of people have just wasted their money on things that they've maybe had second doubts. I think second doubts are important though, because then obviously it goes back to what you were saying about your parents wanting you to obviously do something that you're passionate about. It's good that you're obviously figuring these out. However, if you give the time of research really early on, like, I don't think a lot of people really think about taking a year off after secondary school. For some reason, they just think, oh, I have to go into uni just because everybody else is. Like, what do you think of that?
I mean, I took a year. I worked at an electrical supply warehouse driving a
Mm-hmm.
forklift for a year after high school.
Nice, nice.
Um, because I told my mom, I was like, I'm not really sure this is what I wanted, because they're all about that, right? Like they, I was lucky enough that they had a chunk of money put away for me. Not a lot of people are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even if it was a student loan and they didn't have this chunk of money for me, um, I think I would have still, spent my time researching the same way I did, because somebody stressed the importance of my happiness. And I
Yeah,
feel like when you're a student, nobody does that, right? But I think that research is like one of the biggest things, especially when you're going to, like, even if it's a student loan, pretend you already spent that money.
yeah,
It's a lot of money. Pretend you're already paying it back. It's a lot of money, right?
yeah.
So, especially a lot of these programs, like for 3D stuff, especially if it's Vancouver Film School, I think it costs like $35,000 for 1 year.
For one
And
year.
but it's a 4-year course crammed into 1 year. So
Mm-hmm.
you take 3 classes a day that are three, like, I think they're 3 hours long or something like that. So you have like an hour and a half, then a break, then an hour and a half of the same class, and then you take that 3 times. So it's like 9 hours of classes a day for a year. So it's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I mean, sorry, I'd recommend Vancouver Film School, but in terms of like that, you need to prepare intensely to
Yeah.
be smothered. But I mean, for people who don't like that kind of workflow, then they can probably go to another school that has a 2 or 3 year program that's just more spread out. Um, but yeah, I would definitely, like, I did lots of research. I took that year. I earned a lot of money because I was like, Mom, I don't have money to go live in Vancouver and do this 1 year course
Yeah.
without working, because that's another thing. You can't really have a part-time job going there. So I spent time earning money, figuring it out if I really wanted to do it. And um, I looked up their success rate with students. I've looked up a lot of things, that because sometimes you can't really trust people's websites.
Yeah.
They try to make themselves look better, but
Completely agree.
you got to look up a lot of reviews, what people said about it, all that stuff. So it's really underrated, I think.
Yeah.
But to make your good choice in life, especially with something so big, you should probably do a little bit of research.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, this, what a start! Thank you so much. This is amazing.
No
You
problem.
mentioned so many things I've never touched on the podcast. What am I doing wrong here, folks? I need to catch up. I need to just. This is great. I love it. So, because like you mentioned there, yes, a lot of courses are very expensive, but it's like, once again, having a day job is crucial. Learning how to understand money. You said there like a really important point, which was think as if like you've spent it all. Like be really smart with your money. A lot of students, I'm pretty sure you'll agree, they see their student loan and they think, right, instantly we're going out, spending it all, I don't know, buying new clothes, having fun, whatever it may be. It's okay to obviously socialize and have fun. It's important. It's part of the process and it's part of the experience. But I think that's another thing that hopefully the more podcasts I do, eventually I can get the point across of how important money is and how to use it. Is there any advice you would give to students? Like the easy one for me was just saving. So I never spent money for years. Like literally, I'm talking about a decade. Like my plan was like you said about your parents. Like my dad put so much effort into to teach me the right things that like I didn't want to let him down in the slightest. So I was like, right, I'm saving up money nonstop. I'm working my day job. I had 3 jobs at one point just to try and get things rolling. What advice would you give to students when it comes to money?
I mean, that exactly. Save. Especially even when you get in this industry, save.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if you're lucky enough to find an opportunity and get in after college, that's really amazing. And that, like, I mean, props, like, because it's all about timing. So if you get in, but still save your money, you always need like a pot of money on the side. That's like my biggest recommendation.
Yep.
So and don't spend money you don't have.
Yep.
So if you have a huge credit card because you've been approved, don't do that. But I don't know, in terms of like uh like student loans, obviously keep paying those back when you get them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can be smart about the program you're choosing, right? So I think like if I were to go back, I think I would probably still do everything the same. But that program was really expensive. I think if I went to something else that was a bit longer, but I was like, I want to do this now. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it now. I'm not gonna waste time. I'm gonna do a year more of school and I'm out. So that was my mentality. But if you feel like you want to enjoy your college experience, instead of just jump right into your career,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe a longer course because that's something for you. And then longer courses tend to be cheaper, but I don't recommend going to like university courses for 3D because it's not so specialized. And I find that the like most they don't hire the specialists that actually have worked in the industry before. I've heard a lot from a lot of friends who've taken university courses,
Mm-hmm.
or like they're public colleges, so they're cheaper programs. And a lot of those people had just graduated from the program and then started teaching at the school. So sometimes they don't have, like, you kind of have to ask a course. That's another thing with research, I guess, too, is like when you go to your college and you ask them questions, ask them what experience their teachers have had. And that's a good question to ask as well, so that you can know if the information they're teaching you is going to actually be useful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I sidetracked a bit.
No, that's perfect. It's yeah, because education is such a complicated one. One of the like yes, there's tons and tons of great teachers, but there's tons of great teachers who are unfortunately though as well not up to date, and that's the reason why I started doing this podcast, and it's all about like most importantly the reason why we do these interviews is to kind of save you money. We've been talking about money for the start of this podcast, but it's crucial. It's the driving force, believe it or not. Like you need money to live, you need money to get things rolling, and there's only so much you can go off having none of it. So it's an important thing to talk about. And then another thing. So let's now transition into the main reason why we're all here today. So let's talk about senior art. But to make it a good transition, I think another thing as well for artists, similar to what you were saying about having extra money in the pot, prepare for the unexpected. So we were talking previously, like there's a lot of things going on in the industry at the moment because of COVID. Unfortunately, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and having that backup, like Crystal said, can really save you. Even if it's just a few months, would you say probably like 3 months is long enough time?
I would say 6, because
6, okay.
sometimes in this industry, like maybe you're living to your salary, and maybe your salary is pretty good. You should still try to prepare to have 6 months of whatever you're living at. maybe downgrade to like extend your money a bit more, like maybe
Mm-hmm.
move to a cheaper apartment, something like that. But yeah, I would say 6 months is a good place to be because, especially with COVID, I have a little bit more than 6 months saved right now because you never know what's going to happen, right? Like
Yeah,
it's very unpredictable. But in terms of like regular life, sometimes the place you're working really unexpectedly might just close. Like they'll lose all their work, they'll fire all their employees in 1 second, and then bam, done. That's your job
yeah,
wrapped off, right? You can collect EI for a little bit, depending on where you work, like unemployment insurance, and then uh, you know, but that's only good for like maybe a month or two because the contracts we work are so short sometimes, right? So you could work somewhere for 6 months, or like a year, and you still don't really get a lot of unemployment insurance from that. Again, that's
yeah,
just me in Canada, my experience here, but there might be different uh, stuff everywhere else. But I mean, yeah, I would say again, 6 months
six
is a
months.
good place.
No,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that because once again, so one of the main things over the last 2 years I've been prioritizing is I've been learning business. So I've been learning a lot of just learning the whole behind the scenes, etc. Because I feel like that side of things is never talked about, and one of the other things that people don't tell you as well, the harsh reality, how difficult things actually are in the industry. There's a
Mhm.
lot of things that like I'm a very positive person, so every time I do a podcast, like I love doing it. This is what I love to do. However, I also like to get across the point that it's not an easy industry. Things happen. Coming, you'll be thrown curveballs, you name it. Everything will be coming on you at once, and you won't be able to expect it. And through this interview, we're going to be talking a lot about that, but most importantly, diving into senior. So you're a senior artist. To anyone who's a junior or anyone wanting to get to that level, it's a bit of a tough question to start off with, but how do you become one? What's the main things that stands out?
Ugh. Well, I mean, you just need to work hard. And I know that's just really general, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the truth. So when I say that I'm working hard right now, it's because I'm working hard for my future self. And that's the way that I see it is that you work hard now to reap the benefits later, right? And so that's always how I've seen it my entire career. So actually, when I was in university, I was told by the teachers there, and with good reason, to not become a character artist. Um, a lot of the people at Vancouver Film School, the teachers in particular, will try to steer you away from that. And it's not because they don't think you're talented, it's because it's such a hard thing to get into, is being
Mm-hmm.
a character artist. Because everyone wants to do it. Everyone and their mom is like, let's get into character art,
Yeah,
right?
it's so
So
true.
it's hard because it's so demanding and there's so many people trying to do it. So the biggest best thing they could do is recommend me not to. But me being super stubborn, I was like, yeah, well, you want to see me try. So when I graduated, I had an amazing teacher there who I loved. He was my senior modeling instructor. He'll know himself if he ever hears this podcast. He was amazing. And he said, like, you know, you should probably just like try to focus on like when we were creating our overall portfolio at the end, I was focusing on, everything because they told me not to do characters and I was like, fine, but I like them. They're fun. They're
Yeah,
they're exciting for me. Like it's fun to make something out of nothing and especially character related. It's a difficult task, right? So I actually did an environment. I did a bunch of props. I did model texture, lighting, look dev. Like I did everything, and I did a character for my final portfolio because I
wow.
was like, if I can't be a character artist, then at least I can be something in this realm
Yeah,
of
just
art.
in case.
Yeah. So when I got out of college, I got actually offered two jobs.
Oh, amazing.
One was the MPC Lighting Academy, um, and then the other was a generalist position at a company called Artifacts, which
Mm-hmm.
they're amazing. I love them.
Wait,
But
what are
beforehand,
they
I
called?
didn't
Sorry,
know this. Artifact Studios.
Right. Okay.
And both are in Vancouver. I mean, I guess MPC is now shut down in Vancouver, so that's not good anymore. But but that's happened. And then I went to my instructor, which is something I think all students should do. Is if they have options to choose from, and the teachers know best on where to point you in a direction, right? So I told my modeling instructor, I want to be a character artist. What is my best option? Like, I'm not honestly sure if I should go into lighting just to get into movies. um is that going to help me? Can I make a transition from there?
Yeah.
And then the other option was being a 3D generalist at a TV studio, right? So it wasn't as high class, but it was a smaller, like, TVs, you're like, TV shows, meh, right? They're fun still. It's still working in the industry. But movies like that MPC does, like Jungle Book and all that stuff, amazing, right? Like you're like want to get into that. But he actually said, take the generalist position, because if you want to be a modeler, you'll get more options modeling at this place and you can grow from there. I think if he never told me that and he never gave me that piece of advice, I would have honestly taken the NBC job and been stuck with a lighting job my whole career.
Yeah.
So, because that's what happened to a lot of people I knew, because I feel like when you get into lighting, studios just want lots of lighters. You kind of just get stuck in the lighting path. And there's nothing wrong with that if you love lighting, but if that's not your career goal, then that's not good for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened. Took that generalist job, and he was right on the money. I got modeling opportunities, started from like rocks, then trees, then
Going up the
eventually,
list.
exactly, I ended up modeling a dragon when I was there, which was really cool
Wow. Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
You kind of just go earn people's trust. The biggest thing is to be a nice person and like be a good person to work with, but also try to be as like fast and efficient and uh, versatile as possible, so you could be there and like, when someone doesn't want to do something, you catch it and you're like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because then people like start to like you, and then they want to make you happy, and then they will help you with your career goal because you helped them get something done, right? It's like a favor for a favor.
Yeah.
And then you slowly work your way up the ladder, and before you know it, you're a character artist, right? Like it takes a little bit to climb the ladder. But it just takes a few of those, like, someone's like, here, I'll throw you a bone. Here's a dragon to do. I'll throw you a bone. Here's a digidouble to do, something like that. When you've just been modeling rocks and trees, and maybe you were like lighting, or because like in that job being a generalist, you're tracking. I think I was tracking shots and cameras for like
That always,
months.
the first time I came across camera tracking, I was like, here we go.
Yeah. And I was doing layout, like animation. I animated some dead whales at some point. Like there's I mean, I know you say like how much can a dead whale move, but like they float in the water. Okay, there's animation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of just do what you've got to do and you'll get there. But that's just my experience. But like you also need to not be like, oh, I'm an amazing artist, like you have to accept that you're where you are, and they know that you can do the job, but they need to throw you some tests first. It's different working on characters from home than it is working in the studio, right? It's a lot more pressure. They need to make sure you can handle that. Because someone's like, oh, this is going to be in a movie. And you're like, this is going to be in a movie? Oh my God. Right. And you
Yeah.
tend to try to do the best you can, but that stress is still on your shoulder. Right. So I hope that kind of answers more.
Yeah, that's a great way to get this all started. So I appreciate you diving into that. And so you mentioned a very important word, and the word being generalist. So when I was taught, I always felt this word was very underappreciated. I felt too many people focus on the title specialist rather than generalist, and people forget how many doors open if you are a generalist. Yes, being a specialist is great because obviously you get to narrow down and focus, but when you're first starting out, you get thrown at anything. It's like you said, you had to work your way up the hierarchy, and that is literally the same for everyone. Like you're always going up, you're always going to get thrown the tasks that you don't necessarily want to start off with. It takes time to get where you want to go, like you said. And like, would you agree? So of all the people I've interviewed, it's always been a an interesting, not conflict. Well, it's almost like a split down the middle. Do you think people, like, it's better to be a generalist? It's better early on, at least, to go down that route. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, I know it's a tough question because I understand like we all have our passions, etc. But sometimes it might be easier for you to actually go up the ladder easier.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I think like for my situation, being a generalist, I mean, it was a fight to get to being a character artist, but it was less of a fight than sitting at home applying for jobs that I may never get, right?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing was just do what you've got to do to get in. And then you can start making connections that will help you be a nice person. People will throw you stuff. Um, but I think being a generalist has helped me along like a lot throughout my career. But I only be a generalist because I like it. I like knowing a lot of things. That's always been me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I through my career I've done a lot of things. I've been a generalist for 2 years, then I went to be a model texture artist. Um, and I was actually modeling, like this was at Method when I was modeling for Fantastic Beasts and
Oh,
when I worked on
okay.
Black Panther. Um,
It's so
and
cool. Anytime I hear Fantastic Beasts, I just geek out.
I know, I when they told me I was going to be on that, I was like, "What?
Harry
That's
Potter.
amazing,
Oh, it's
Harry
the
Potter!"
best
I
feeling
was like,
ever.
it was. I had like my gut dropped, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like my stomach, it was just like butterflies. I was so
Yeah.
excited because it was my first. I guess not my first movie, but my first like big movie.
Mm-hmm.
I got there, they put me on Black Panther for a little bit, and I was like, this is exciting, but it's still not Harry Potter. I don't know why it didn't excite me as much, but it
Yeah.
just didn't. So, but then when I worked on that, again, it's like the same thing. Like my lead was giving me, I was like the prop artist on Fantastic Beasts, and I was doing all the high quality props and everything like that. And I kept like I think this was like a really important transition for my career is actually this moment. So when I got the job at Method, I applied there for 9 months. I was trying to get in, and it took them 9 months to hire me. I was messaging the recruiters constantly. I was probably being a little too annoying, but I was like, I really want to work here. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
guys do amazing work. And I kept sending applications because the thing was transitioning from a TV studio to a feature film studio. That was a little bit of a hard jump for me, so that's something to consider, but it's
Okay.
not impossible. It's just, it's a harder jump because you need to prove that you can do the quality of feature film because in TV it's quantity over quality
Right.
sometimes. So you need to do that stuff at home, work on personal projects to show them. And I was doing that, but I guess I wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
9 months later, I guess I was. So they hired me. And I started there, and they were like, "Well, because you came from a TV studio, we're gonna give you a bunch of TV props, like sorry, not TV props, but props, and all these high quality, like they're gonna be in your face, they're gonna be cool stuff to do, but it's just we're not gonna give you characters or creatures." And I was like, "Okay, you just wait."
You just wait. I'll get there soon.
um, but then I was working on, again, my I'm always doing personal work. So even after I started at any studio working anywhere, I was always working on personal work in my spare time,
Mm-hmm.
learning new softwares, learning new techniques, watching tutorials, all that stuff. And I was doing an ArtStation challenge, I remember, which is amazing. So if you haven't done one, do one. They're really good because they're stress and you have to finish by a certain day, and it actually evolves your skills every time,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. It's kind of like fake testing to be in the industry.
Yeah. Art
So
tests.
exactly. So I was doing one of those, and it was actually for a sea creature. And I was asking the people at my studio for feedback, which is one of the biggest things that I think helped me get where I'm at, is because I went to my leads, I went to my supervisors, and I was like, this is my project I'm working on at home. I actually just really want a list of feedback and like give it to me dirty. I want to know
Yeah.
the worst things about this so I can fix it and make it better. And I think they saw that effort that I was making on my personal time. And they actually were like, this is pretty close to something we need to do in the studio. Would you do it for us? Like, can we put you on creatures? And I was like, yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Right. So they saw that I was working on stuff at home that was creatures, characters, all that stuff. And I was giving feedback, or was getting feedback from them. And they were excited by that. Right. They were like, here's someone who's willing to take feedback and learn, and someone who's not just going to, jump into it and be really stubborn. So they gave me what I wanted because I was being easy to work with. I was doing
Yeah.
what they asked me to do, and then they were like, "Okay, we're going to give you something awesome because you worked hard for it."
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I
Wow.
think, the biggest turn in my career.
Oh my gosh, I've said this already, but we're just warming up. It's already great. I'm loving it.
I'm sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry. I appreciate this. Is amazing. I'm loving this. It's so nice as well. Just seeing your passion as well. Like that's the best part. It's like just seeing people truly just go after it, and also most importantly, like you highlighted, like the main kind of factor, or the main thing I get across from it is just being independent and knowing that it's down to you to get things rolling. Like things never happen overnight. Like you said, you had to do so many extra hours, and you're still doing it. You're still doing all your freelance work. You're doing all these extra things on the side that is only going to escalate your career. And we'll dive into a lot of that in the one of the later sections of the podcast. But one of the things I wanted to ask, so I've been talking to a few guests about this question, and it'd be great to hear your perspective. Do you think artists are trying to grow too quickly? Because so like people trying to go maybe to senior too quickly, lead. Do you think? Well, yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate the question. Do you think they're trying to grow too quickly?
I mean, I think it depends on you and your skill level,
Mm-hmm.
because and also your passion for this job.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I became a senior in 4 years, right? A lot of people take 5 to 8 years, right?
Okay.
But that's, I think the only reason is because I spent so much, I basically did 8 years of work in 4 years,
In
right?
four
So
years.
my mentality has been working from home, learning softwares, getting all this knowledge. So that's the only reason why I know an amount of senior knowledge in 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I've been working now for 5.5 years, and it's, I can't say that you're trying to grow too quickly, but you just should grow with where you feel like you shouldn't undermine, yeah, undermine,
Mm-hmm.
undermine yourself, right? Like, you should know where you stand, right? So when I was a generalist, I actually grew within a year from a junior to an intermediate, because the studio was like, you are doing senior quality work for
Mm-hmm.
us at this studio, so specifically this studio, but we want to give you an intermediate title because we're not going to just give you a senior title after a year of work. So that makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
So they were saying that you just evolve quickly because you learn a lot and you do things like that. But that was something I didn't ask for. So a lot of the times people, I just feel like if they're trying to grow too quickly and they're actually pushing for it, then that's when they probably shouldn't, right? But if they're getting like feedback from their supervisors or leads that they should be leveled higher than this,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when they should listen to it, right? Because I feel like you never really know what does an intermediate know, what does a junior know, what does a senior know, right?
Yeah.
But the people who have worked in the industry for a long time that are your leads or your supervisors, they know what you should know. So if they're the ones recommending that you are undermining yourself and you're calling yourself an intermediate when you're a senior, it's like, well, you're probably, not getting paid enough to do the work you're
Yeah.
doing, right?
You deserve that paycheck.
Exactly. So you kind of have to go from people's word on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like sometimes people, like, I've met people who have been working in the industry for 12 years and they don't do their job at all. I've had to clean up their mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you'll come into a lot within this industry, is sometimes people, either they lose interest, they lose their passion, or maybe they just don't grow as fast as you because maybe they went home and they have a family, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't work on their skills. They just go home and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it took them longer to evolve and to grow than it took you because you have the free time to work at home. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where my opinion stands on that.
No, I appreciate it because it's been a question that I've been kind of throwing out there recently, just to kind of get different perspectives on it, and it's always important to get a wide variety of insight, because then I can make sure I share the right information and learn from people's journeys. So I've got a question for you when it comes to what you touched on there. Do you think a person can dive straight into a senior after education? Because one of my closest friends, he was in. So when I was in uni, he's about 9 years older than me, and when I was in university, he was miles ahead of everyone. He's done art his whole life, and to me personally, he's the best concept artist I've seen. Do you think people who can back themselves up no matter what should be allowed to be a senior, or do you think the experience should always be put in place first, because it does play an important part to actually learn the pipeline and stuff and actually find your place?
I think the experience in studios is important. Like I think you can't just jump from being a student to a senior,
Mm-hmm.
not because like I mean maybe their talent is there and
Mm-hmm.
that's really great. And maybe they will evolve again quicker. Like maybe they'll be a senior in like 2 or 3 years. Who knows, right? But I think that it depends on because they have to learn the pipelines. They have to be at different studios, experience different things, different softwares, different stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they also just need like, yeah, I mean the experience
It's
because
important.
the thing that like working in the studio is a lot different than working at home. I guess as a concept artist in that specific case, it's a bit different because if he's been working on lots of concepts for years before he had education, then maybe he would be considered a senior.
Yep.
But he didn't work in the industry. He didn't work under the deadlines. He didn't work with people. With people is like the biggest thing. And I think that's the biggest thing you get from all these years of experience is your teamwork, right?
Yeah.
Like people always say like in college it's a different atmosphere than in visual like in the oh my god in the industry.
Yeah.
And the reason is because you're all pitted against each other. You're like, oh, he's going to go for the job that I want. Oh, he's going to go. But the thing is, you kind of have to see it as like, these are the people who you're going to work with in the industry, and you need to be friends with these people.
Mm-hmm.
You're enemies. He might get employed sooner than you, but he might get you a job, right? You don't know that. And when you get into the industry, you need to learn how to work with these people and be nice, and
Mm-hmm.
also to accept feedback. So I feel like when you come from college, you're not prepared to get the feedback that you're going to get in the industry. You're
Yeah.
going to get shredded.
It's a wake-up call.
Well, because that work you're doing is not yours. The work you're doing is owned by somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to detach, get shredded for this feedback, and then go back to your desk and redo it 40 times, right? That's something that people don't prepare you for. When you work on your stuff at home, it's a lot more personal. And when people give you feedback, you address it, but you don't go do it 40 times. Not someone's going to come be like, oh, change this, change that, change this every single minute you do something, right? So I think that's another thing to consider when you're thinking about how you level up.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know I'm throwing a ton of questions at you. I appreciate everything you're
that's okay.
saying. It's I really is incredibly helpful. Do you, when it comes to the world of senior, do you think a senior must have communication skills? Because to me personally, this is another topic that I've been bringing up lately, is leads getting lead roles, but they don't know how to lead. And it's it's all about knowing how to support juniors. And yes, juniors do have to learn independence. Like, once again, I can't highlight the importance of learning how to figure things out on your own when you get into the industry, because like you said, there's going to be a lot of things thrown at you in your first few months that you're going to be like, oh my lord, I've learned like your whole time in education of 4 years, you basically learned that in 1 month when you start the job.
Yeah. Actually, when I started my first job, I was like, oh my God, this is more than even a week of what, like,
It's
I learned
crazy.
more in
It's
a week
mental.
than even my whole education. And they just throw shit at you. Like, they're just like, bam, 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 bam. And you're like, ugh. But
I know that is a tough question, but so to make it, I guess, a wee bit easier, do you think seniors not so much communication skills. Obviously, leads definitely need communication skills. Like that's a must. Like they need to know how to work with their team and get the best out of the juniors who are starting. Do you think senior is more right? Obviously, they've got bigger tasks to do. They've got a lot more complicated tasks to do than the juniors.
I think just in general, this industry, you need to know how to communicate.
Yeah,
Um, so I feel like as a junior and also as a senior, I mean, communication for me hasn't really been a problem because I'm terribly honest sometimes. So someone says, "Do you know how to do this?" And I'm like, "Nope," but I'm willing to learn and I'm excited. Let's do
yeah.
this, right? And I think that should be anyone's answer as a junior. As a lead, I've worked with good leads and I've worked with bad leads.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what makes a good lead is somebody who is not going to do the work for you, but will point out the problems and show you how to fix them.
Yeah,
Right. So, and also someone who isn't always behind your shoulder being like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Because
yeah.
you're not
That
going to
could,
learn that way. Right.
yeah, that could get a bit too far sometimes.
Um, that's like over communicating. And that's when you're like, oh my God, this is awful. Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's one lead where I'm like, I want to be you because you're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my skills from like teaching has come from this guy because he's awesome. He was
Yeah.
amazing. And he, some people I guess I don't know, maybe they didn't like him, I don't know, but I liked him a lot because he would take your things, if you had done something wrong, he would dissect it, help you figure out a way to fix it, and then
Mm-hmm.
completely close the scene on the fixed stuff and be like, okay, now go do it.
Yeah.
So, and then he would let you send it through, but he's not going to like double check and dissect your work and stuff like that. But he will help you to fix it and to do better the next time. So you're aware of the problems, so you can look for them and fix it next time.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of communication as a lead, it's the same, or sorry, as a senior, it's the same thing, right? If you're helping a junior, you need to know how to communicate to someone. I was always told in school, we had an actual teamwork communication class, and they taught us how to talk to people, right? So when you're giving feedback and stuff like that, it's a gentle, you need to be gentle.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, this sucks, fix it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be like, they taught us a compliment sandwich. So you tell them something that's really good about it, and then you tell them something that's not so good, the thing they need to fix,
Mm-hmm.
and you end it with something else that you liked about it. So that's a big thing that I've also taken into my career as that is. But you also need to have good communication as a senior in order to like essentially get where you want in your career.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not clear about your goals or, the tasks you want assigned to you, if you just keep taking the things they give you, leads don't know what you want. Supervisors don't know what you want. Only you know what you want. And so unless you can communicate that stuff to people in a nice way that's not overwhelming,
Yeah.
they won't know, right? So you can't just assume that everyone knows what you do want.
Exactly. It's questions is king at the end of the day. It goes back to what you were saying about creating like your portfolio so you could become a character artist. Like you did all these things on the side. You asked everyone to be honest with you and learn from that, and then because of that, you were then be able to become an easier person to work with because like they didn't have to ask you so many questions because you already learned it and you put the time in. So there's another thing that I think is also super important to talk about, and another thing that I've been having lots of thoughts about, and it's I feel more women should be leads over men. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I always think it's easier to talk to women when it comes to this subject in terms of getting supported on this case. Yes, there's lots of great leads who are men as well. There's so many people who are obviously working really hard and stuff, but I think there should be more priority over women being leads. I know it's like, what's your thoughts on that?
I think there need to be more women in this industry in
Yeah,
general. But
exactly.
I think I don't know. I feel like girls aren't exposed to this as much as guys are because
Mm-hmm.
they're always told like I feel like it stems from a really, back early on when you're just a little kid and someone's like, "Oh, you're a girl. You shouldn't be playing video games. You should be playing with these dolls."
Right.
And I think that's where the exposure ends to this kind of stuff is like that's kind of where it roots from. So when they grow up and they're in high school, they're never going to consider working on video games or working in movies because they were playing with dolls, you know, like
Right.
so I mean, I feel like getting more girls in this industry, going to talk to colleges, like that's something I actually wanted to get into as well as actually having like speeches at high schools
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, guys, do this. We need to get more girls in here.
Yep.
Because I do agree, like maybe like a girl would be easier to talk to as a lead or easier to negotiate with, easier to support you and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's not the fact, right? Like there's a lot more men in the industry than there
Mm-hmm.
is women, especially in modeling. Like
Yeah.
I was shocked when I started at Method here in Montreal and there was one other modeler girl.
Just
I was
one.
like,
Oh
oh my
gosh.
God, I'm so excited though. Like I was super excited because I worked at a studio, the Method in Vancouver, and I think there was also only one other girl
Mm-hmm.
in modeling out of I think there was 15 or 20 of us. There was only two girls. And in Method in Montreal, there was like maybe 6 to 8 modelers, and there was again two girls. So I was like, and then they hired another one. I was like, oh, this is
The
Christmas.
numbers are growing.
Yeah, but I think like in terms of like you kind of like as much as yes, that would be ideal, and I'm like, yeah, okay, girl power,
Mm-hmm.
but you kind of just need to learn how to talk to people. And sometimes if it's a guy and that's your lead,
Yep.
you just have to learn how to speak to them. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes people are not easy to talk to, and sometimes they're a little more difficult to crack than others. Um, but I feel like you learn the way to talk to them, and then you can get in there, and they'll teach you. Right? Sometimes there's people who are not so good at being a lead, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I would recommend maybe talking to the senior artist that's easier to talk to, like kind of avert your
That's a good point.
feedback.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
I
maybe
agree.
find someone who's I guess maybe a step below or something that still has a lot of experience that you have an easier time talking to if you need help with things. So, I mean, you just have to find your way around it and be a little bit stubborn in the fact that you need help. You're going to get it somehow. And if you're not getting it from your lead, then, you
Yep.
know. But I mean, I think, I wouldn't say like there needs to be more girls as leads. I mean, I agree. I'd love to be a lead one day.
Yeah. Oh,
But
you will.
um,
It's already fate. You could tell.
well, you need to. That's the thing is that a lot of people they do just get promotions when they're not ready to be a lead, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But um,
But you're a great
I
speaker, and I think. Sorry to cut you off here.
oh
It's.
that's okay.
I think. So the reason why I wanted to say this, and it's because when there's lots of new starts, it's obviously we all have our different levels of confidence. Some people are very quiet, but very talented, like very talented people still, and sometimes like I always kind of debated if the probation period is long enough, like that it's normally like 3 months give or take. Yes, it depends on your situation, maybe you've traveled, etc. I know you've moved a lot yourself, and it takes a lot to get all those out of work things in place, and because of that it could obviously it adds a compound effect to what you do in your job. And I've always just felt that maybe there should, well, I guess the main point is just down to getting more people who are better at communicating in these roles. And I know there's many people out there already who are really great at their job, really helping people, and it's great to see. But there's also many places that I've heard from countless people that like they're kind of like questioning like how did they get that role, and it's always a tough one. But that's going to be in every job we get. It's always going to be everywhere. So it's always an interesting subject. But thank you for sharing everything. I really do appreciate you doing that. So my next question to kind of carry on this theme: is there too many juniors and not enough seniors in the industry? Do you think?
I think there's not enough juniors.
Oh, interesting. I did not see you saying that.
um,
Okay.
and honestly, in visual effects, at least most of the places I've been, there's only been like 2 or 3 juniors.
Mhm.
Maybe like that's the maximum I've ever seen.
Right.
um, in modeling at least. I'm not sure about lighting or any other sections, but in asset artist positions, usually there's only like 2 or 3. Um, and I find that unfortunate. I feel like there's like a lot of academies, like NPC Lighting Academy, Framestore has an academy, DNEG has a Greenlight Academy, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and those are amazing. Like I'm like full heartedly going, like, you know, go to get in some way somehow. That's the way you get in. But in terms of like when they actually hire someone into the studio, there's only like 2 or 3 in the whole department, and because everyone's so obsessed with hiring seniors. And I mean, I get it; they want seniors to get the work done and everything, but you do need to actually hire enough juniors so that they can grow and help create more seniors, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're made. We're not
Yeah.
just like born into the world and bam, it's a senior, right?
Exactly.
And I find it really unfortunate because a lot of places are like, you have to have experience to get experience, and
The
we're not going
fa-
to hire you
the
because you don't
favorite
have
phrase.
experience. But I mean, I would love to be smothered in juniors at a studio. That would
Yeah.
be, I'd be happy about that, because I feel like then I'd feel like our industry is growing a lot more and a lot faster. But whenever I see there's only 2 or 3 juniors or something like that, I get a little disappointed because I'm like, you're not helping anybody.
Yeah.
You're helping these 3 people that are selected because they're really, really, really talented, right? And that's great and all, but what about everybody else, right? Like I know you can't hire the whole world, but
Mm-hmm.
in terms, like, I feel like there's a lot of mids. That's another thing. There's not a lot of seniors, there's a lot of mids.
Right.
So people who've just jumped from junior to mid and they're sitting there in the studio, like, it's just, it's hard when you have a lot of mid-level artists, because people who are juniors can't get a lot of information from a lot of mids. They can only get it from seniors. So like there's some stuff that they can answer, but not a lot, right? So when there's an overabundance of mids, you kind of get this weird
Weird
place in the
relationship.
studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not enough information flowing, not enough good techniques coming down the line, all that stuff. So I
That's
feel like,
interesting. I did not see you saying that, and appreciate you diving that, because yes, obviously I can only base things off my experience and what I've learned from others, but it's always nice hearing what you thought, because I asked 2 people the same question yesterday, and all 3 of your answers are different, which is great to hear, because it's like, I agree with you. It's all about making sure that, because I know obviously today's topic we're talking about how to basically become a senior, but most importantly is as well as how can we help the seniors as well. Like you mentioned something there really important. It's we're all in a team at the end of the day. It's all about making sure that everyone feels involved, and there's no bottlenecks, etc. Because I know, like you said, that seniors, there's a lot of pressure for you. You guys have to do a lot of work, and yes, there's a lot of pressures on juniors, but I think there's more on the senior side of things because of what you said there, and I'm just learning a lot from that just from listening to you just now. So I appreciate you diving into that. So if you guys are wanting to become a senior, by the way, as always, I'll be putting all the notes down below so you guys don't miss anything. So we've got a few more questions still to cover. We're still warming up. So now this is an interesting question, because I think I've done well in this area, because I've learned, like yourself, to just practice, learn to fail. When it comes to the promotion side of things, so like actually saying to your lead, etc., I want to become a senior. I feel like I'm ready. Is there any advice to approach the transition as smoothly as possible?
I mean, that's the first step. Talk to your lead.
Mm-hmm.
But also talk to, like, I mean, in your department, there'll be a department manager, there'll be someone out there to speak to that's actually managing all of you,
Mm-hmm.
or like a supervisor, because every studio is different. They have different names for it. So I can't say dear department manager, but, or your, supervisor. It depends. But I would speak to the person who's managing your department and tell them what you want. That's the first step. And if they feel like you're not ready yet, I would listen to them. Don't push it,
Mm-hmm.
but ask them, how can you be ready? Take some notes, take some, understand what they think you're missing, and they're going to help you set something up in place so that, maybe in a year's time, working on all these skills, you'll level up. Oh, we have a frozen screen
Yep,
again.
yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
So you said level up.
Yeah, to expect to just level up immediately is a hard thing, because maybe they're expecting more from you, and that's why they haven't given you the promotion automatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, again, this is where communication comes in. You
Of
got to
course.
be very, very precise. Go to someone and be like, this is what I want. I want to be a senior character artist. What am I missing? What do you think is missing from my techniques, from my communication, from my skill set? Like, what would you consider a senior artist? And they'll tell you. They're not going to lie, right?
Yeah.
I've told, I think back when I was transitioning from a mid to a senior, I was told that my attention to detail is not high enough. They want me to be more attentive to detail. Otherwise, they said that was it, right? So that was the only thing holding me back. So I think at the moment that I went home and I was like, you know what? This is my stubborn side coming in. And I was like, I'll show you attention to detail. So I went home, worked on another personal project that had more attention to detail. At the same time at work, I was also trying to show them that I was paying more attention to details, putting all my effort in. And I would also note down specific assets for specific projects where I showed attention to detail so that, you know, a year or 6 months from now, I could go to them with a list of things saying, this is the case that I had attention to detail. This is also another case. My CG supervisor at this moment said that they were really impressed with my work. Like, you have to have like a track record because they don't know everything, right? You have to be able to present them with a list of important facts that maybe they missed. And then they'll be like, oh, sorry, I was wrong. Promoted. Yeah. Right?
Awesome. Thank you for everything you said. So I've got a few more questions before we get into the fun, crazy section of the podcast, folks. As always, we've got question time coming up where I bombard the guests with, you name it, favorite game, everything. I actually need to talk to you about the new Harry Potter game as well. See what your thoughts are on that. Well, actually, I can ask you now, what's your thoughts? Are you excited?
I'm excited, but I mean, I honestly haven't watched the trailer for it. I've been
so
told,
it is,
but it's
just
good.
It's
I
good.
think it's just with my all my work right now that I've been smothering myself in. I have a lack of exposure to the world because I'm like tuning it out. I have a bubble, and I'm like, okay, now I can see what's going on for the last 3 months.
but that's a good skill as well, though, because it helps you. Because obviously we were talking. So one of the topics we were talking before we went live was COVID and how actually having lots of work to do during this time's been very helpful. But yes, obviously we want to get out and enjoy the fresh air as well. But speaking of COVID, to like first of all, like how are you coping with COVID in regards to like in terms of like communication wise, etc., and just getting the job done because everyone's working from remote from home. How's that process going for you?
It's awesome. I mean, I honestly never thought I'd see the day that the industry all got sent home. And I think this is going to evolve a lot of things in this industry and make it actually possible for visual effects studios to work remotely, which is going to be really cool. But there's also a downside to the whole thing. But I mean, that's something else entirely. That's mostly just you don't get to see people every day, right? And that's lonely. And I only get to see my cat, and that's sad. I mean, I like him, but not
Here,
that
he's
much,
called
right?
he's called Elvis. Come on, it's a positive.
I know.
But I know what you mean.
There. It's a positive.
Classic's a classic.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of working from home, it's been great. Like, I like it. I find I'm actually more productive because I'm not distracted by like everything else going on around me. You know, someone's not poking me and saying like, hey, let's go get coffee.
Yeah.
You know? Plus I can just roll out of bed and start working, and that's super. But yeah, I've also, like, in terms of like the actual COVID itself, like I was trying to think about like when this all started and I got sent home. I was already working on the Gnomon tutorial during that time. I was just wrapping it up. And I was like, why don't I just do more of this? Because
of the tutorials,
like more freelance, more work in general. Because like, I mean, my contract was coming to an end at DNEG. And I knew that. And this was like perfect timing for COVID. So I was like, there's no way they're going to renew me. Like, that there's no way. That would be so lucky.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So I kind of prepared like a lot of, again, this is like my preparation in the back of my mind. I was like, how am I going to make money if I get laid off and I can't find something else, right? And this happens even for seniors. So I know when juniors are saying like, I can't find a job, it's like seniors are also saying, I can't find a job,
exactly, right? Yeah.
So it's not easy for anybody right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I prepared to like have freelance going and also student mentorships. That's actually when I launched them
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning or at the end of my contract with DNIG. Um, and then I actually got hired and I was like, oh my God, now I've got too much work to do.
Yeah.
But I figured it all out. I sorted it all, scheduled it into my day so that I could fit everything. And then that's how I kind of dealt with COVID, is just being really busy.
Yeah.
So I figured if I can uh, earn money now, I'll spend it next summer, right? When I have nothing to do.
Of course.
And there's actually life again. So, but in terms of frozen again.
Oh, yep. There we go.
There we go. That's it's a good call. In terms of communication, we freeze.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. Right. Because the stories I could tell right now. It's yeah. That's always a fun one when you're in a group call, say like, I don't know, 20 people, and everyone, because one of the first things I said to Crystal at the start of the podcast was thank you so much for having good audio. It makes my job 10 times easier. But that's always been an interesting one on the job, and everyone has different qualities of webcams. Everyone's different levels of understanding of technology. Because that's one thing I don't think it's talked enough about, is because I kind of touched on this a wee bit. I was talking to an amazing artist called Joby on the podcast, and I was talking about the fact that I don't think there's enough discussion about lives of seniors and lives of people who are into their family, they've got their families sorted, etc., or like they have to look after their families. That's one thing I know I need personally to push more of on the podcast is, yes, obviously it's called the Student Art Podcast, but I think it's still vital to hear or like here's people's stories and perspectives on how to handle work-life balance with everything else going on. Like it's like being a senior, it's not just about I guess doing the job, but there's if you're later in your career, I know obviously you became a senior very early, but the later you're in your career, there's going to be a lot more commitments you have to try and keep up with, and I don't think it's talked enough of. So like, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think there needs to be more awareness on seniors and people who've been in the industry for longer?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, do we know a lot about juniors? I guess they're all just coming out of college, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of seniors, like a lot of seniors, yeah, they do have families, they do have like extra, lives and stuff to take care of all the time. And when he was my lead, he was, always had like kids to pick up from school and stuff like that. And that's okay, right? Like it doesn't really get in the way. It's just that it's something that you have to deal with in terms of like time, right? Like
Of
you don't have
course.
time to evolve your career anymore at home. And that's something that, but even there's even been people like one of my, again, the same lead who had to pick his kids up from school early, right? He still goes home and he has a certain amount of time where he works and they don't disturb him and he does his work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people who kind of have this like deal with their partner and they're like, okay, when I close this door, it's my time, right?
Exactly.
So I'm lucky I don't have much of a family going on right now, but
Okay.
in terms of like visiting my family, I think that's something that's not talked about a lot in this industry too, is just being versatile and like being able to move a lot and being open for like the jobs that come, because I've had to move all over Canada and my parents are back in good old British Columbia and I don't get to see them often. Thank God for FaceTime, but that's my family that I miss and I can't see them. So I think like figuring out your life and figuring out what you're going to balance your work, like how you're going to spend your time, right? So for someone like me, for example, I might take a month or two off and just go back home and spend time with them. But if I had a family, kids, like a whole, dog and a house, then I might, I might stop my personal work in my spare time, or I might just try to save it till after, kids and dog are gone to bed, at
Of
10
course.
p.m. and do like an extra hour. But in terms of work, it's work. It's a 9 to 5 job, doesn't really get in the way. if you have overtime to do, just make sure you have a partner who understands that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you said on the podcast. Like, it truly is amazing having you on, Crystal. Most importantly, everyone go give her a follow. Go follow everything that she does. Check out what she does, all her tutorials. If you want to see the amazing content that she creates, you can access on her website, and see everything in the description below. So, with that said, it's time for a fun random section. It's I always ask, it's almost basically would you rather, and it's always a good laugh. So
Awesome.
I've got a few questions, and then we'll take it from there. So, if you could enter an animated movie, what would you choose and why?
That's hard. I love animated movies. I think it would be either Inside Out or
Right.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Nice. Everyone's
One or the other.
There's so many people saying How to Train Your Dragon lately. Like, I think I've had like four guests in a row that said How to Train Your Dragon.
I know, but how cool would that be? You get to ride dragons.
Yeah,
all day.
exactly. It's so true.
Like, they're like your best friend, and they're also super cute and dorky. Like, that's awesome. But Inside Out would be also super cool because I think that getting to control someone's emotions, as difficult as they are. I mean, that was also a really cute movie that I loved a lot. So I think being in that one would be cool.
I've not you're gonna hate me for this. I don't think I've watched the full film of Inside Out. I've watched like the first 40 minutes and then like 20 minutes somewhere else in the film. I've never actually sat down and watched the entire movie from scratch. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. Yes, there's a lot of films to watch and lots of games to play, but I'll let you know when I do finally watch it. Right.
Thank you. Yeah. I think in terms of like, yeah, I think when I take a break from games, I watch a little too many TV shows and a little too much movies. So I think that's where. So I can understand you don't have time for animated movies when you're playing games. So.
I appreciate the answer. Okay, never eat pizza or never eat chocolate again.
Pizza.
Okay.
Never eat pizza.
You'll never eat. Oh, okay. Why never eat pizza? Too big a fan of chocolate.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I love chocolate. I mean, I try not to eat chocolate every day because I know it's not good for you.
But it's so nice though.
It's so good. But it's also like the typical girls with chocolate thing. I think that's what we're dealing with here. But I love pizza, but I don't think that much. I think I've actually gone like 6 months without eating pizza.
6 months without eating pizza. I need to get better with my diet.
So, cheese and me are not like the best of friends.
Yeah, no, I understand. Here, that makes sense. Here, that was an easy. You fooled me there. I didn't expect that. Right? Okay.
But then again, they're like, people are like, but there's milk and chocolate. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah. When it comes to chocolate, there's no rules.
Exactly. It's chocolate.
It's chocolate. Great answer. I did not expect you to say that, so I appreciate it. Right, another random one. Be a werewolf or be a vampire? You're just looking at me.
I think I'd be a.
What is this?
I think I'd be a werewolf because I feel like actually living off of someone's blood is kind of gross.
Yeah.
But I also don't like the idea of turning into a furry beast.
A furry beast.
So,
you're a creature artist as well. There might be some leeway.
Yeah, maybe I can just study the anatomy a little bit more when I turn into this beast. I don't know. Maybe that one.
Perfect. Yeah, it's always a crazy section, so I appreciate the answers. Okay, this one was difficult for me. Okay, would you rather have nightmares every day or have one nightmare that comes true?
Oof, nightmares every day. I think I have too messed up nightmares to want one to ever come true.
They're just too mad. They're too scary. Definitely not wanting to experience that in real life.
No, I'd rather just dream about it and have it every day. And if that's the case, that's my destiny.
Yeah.
But I don't want to experience one of those things. They're too crazy.
I appreciate the honesty. Because I was just thinking, obviously it depends on the outcome. Like, what is the one that's coming true? Like, are you fighting? What is the consequences? If it's anything clowns involved, I am not involved in that. I'm having nightmares every day. I'm not a fan of the whole clowns thing.
Yeah, me neither. All my nightmares are usually related to the ocean and drowning with sharks.
Oh, got you. So you're not a fan of the ocean?
No.
Okay.
Someone's like, "Oh, let's go boat on the ocean. Let's just go swim in the ocean." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
no.
you would be a fan of my family then, because they my mum's side, they all have boats. They like going to the sea, all fishing, etc. So a
I
big no
love
for you.
boating on lakes,
Oh right,
but
yeah.
it's just the ocean itself. I'm just like, nah." I
Just
think it's because
beating
like I
jaws.
went Yeah, I went scuba diving one time and I was like, it wasn't in the ocean, but it was in a pool. And I think at
Hmm.
that moment I was like, this is like a whole other world. That's crazy. And then I saw like a bunch of documentaries under the water and I was
Hmm.
like, I can't do this. I can't be on top of something that's so vast. Like, it's too scary.
Yeah, because like that was the same thing with me with flying. So I didn't conquer my fear of flying until like I don't know 4 years ago. Like it took me like 20 plus years to learn how to be comfortable with the fact that they're the most. It's the safest way to travel. But my dad is literally like, have you ever heard of the TV show Air Crash Investigations?
No.
Oh, you do, yeah. Well, anyway, sounds as it says in the title. My dad would watch this literally all the time, just air crash investigations of how they happen, and I'm like, Dad, this isn't helping anyone. Like, why are you watching this? And then
You're
I'd
just
be on.
creating a fear.
Oh, I was haunted for years. I would just be on the plane, right, and I'd just be shaking my boots. Like it was a 3 hour flight. I would hate it. Like my mum lives in Australia, and she's always like, "When are you coming over? Do you think I'm going on that flight for 24 hours to like I love you to pieces, mum, but that is a commitment. Like maybe one day I'll get the confidence to visit her. It's always been an adventure I want to go on. Okay, so this one I had to ask you this because Harry Potter, we both love Harry Potter. If you were going to Hogwarts, what is the first thing you would do?
Oh. Uh
I finally got you the difficult one.
I don't know. Honestly, I love food, so I'd probably just take a seat down at that table that magically
Good, yeah.
yeah, and I would just eat forever.
Awesome choice. Why not?
I would just imagine what I wanted.
Yeah,
Yep, it would happen.
it'd be brilliant. Like the first time, that's the only reason why I like chicken drumsticks is because of that movie. That's the only reason why I like chicken. Is the first time I saw that play at Harry Potter Philosopher's Stone, I was sorted for life. It looks so good.
Yeah,
Great choice. So we got.
I can't think of anything else.
It's hard when you get put on the spot. For me, because obviously I get to think of the questions. I was like Quidditch. I would definitely maybe go give Quidditch a go.
That would be fun. Yeah, I think that would be fun. I mean, I think it would also be cool to pet the three-headed dog. I
Yep,
mean, that would be cool too.
come across fluffy. As long as he doesn't eat you,
Yes,
you're fine.
exactly.
Oh, that'd be a great question. If like, well, I ask this quite commonly. I ask like, what could your if you could have? Well, I'll actually ask you that. If you could have any fancy creature as a pet in real life, what would you choose?
Hmm.
Is there one from like so far? I've had lots of guests saying Pokemon. There are
Hmm.
A lot of Pokemon fans. A lot of people said creatures from Fantastic Beasts. Is there anything that stands out?
Uh, trying to think. I'm trying to think of all the fantasy creatures that I know. Um,
I don't think I've ever had the chance to actually ask this question to a creature artist as well, because you're not just a card artist, you're a creature artist as well. So the pressure's on here, Crystal.
Honestly, I think it would like now that you said Fantastic Beasts, I'm thinking of the Nifflers, like
Yes,
the little baby Nifflers and
yep,
how cute they are.
they're
So,
adorable.
I would probably have a baby Niffler, I think,
Yep.
because like that would make an actual pet as opposed to I was thinking Buckbeak from Harry Potter because we were talking about Harry Potter and I was
Hmm.
like Buckbeak sounds awesome because that would be really badass. You could just ride Buckbeak and whatever you want to, but
That's awesome.
there's too many. I can't think of all of them.
Yeah, it's oh, trust me, it's always a difficult choice. This part of the podcast, it's always a good laugh. Okay, so two more questions. If you could choose any career that's not art related, what would you choose? If you were not to do anything at all related to 3D, because I know you said at the start you did dancing. Would dancing be a possible career that you'd go down?
Nah.
Not anymore.
Nah,
That
I
passion
mean,
is gone.
I I made it very clear in my life to like I had a lot of hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I danced, I play guitar, I sing, I draw, I do 3D art, I animate, like all that stuff. Like I have a lot of hobbies, and I was like trying to think about when I first started, like what's going to be my hobbies and what's going to be my career,
Yep.
right? So guitar and singing and dancing and all that stuff, I put that all into my hobby section. I was like, this is what makes me happy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not going to ever be my career.
Right.
I would love to like sing and make music and stuff, but I just decided. I was like, nope, not going to try it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I was to pick any other career, it'd probably be like being a personal trainer,
Cool.
like at the
Awesome.
gym, or I was also thinking maybe like a nurse
Yep.
or just something helpful. I feel like that's the one thing in my career that I'm missing is, you can like as much as I make tutorials and stuff like that, it's like in your actual career day to day, you don't get to be helpful. You don't get to like help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just making art, right? Which is cool, but I'm missing that like helpfulness.
Yeah. Oh, it's an amazing drug. Like, there's nothing better than helping people, and I completely agree. Like, it took me, like I said right at the start, like it took me years to figure out what it was, and then teaching, it's the one of the most fun things ever. Like, just geeking out and kind of getting someone out of their shell, best feeling ever. There's nothing better like when someone's like really quiet, and then you just start geeking out what they're passionate about, and then they just blossom up. Best feeling ever. So I completely agree with you. So the same question that I ask every single guest on the podcast, it's always the final question. Favorite cartoon as a kid?
Hmm. Kim Possible.
Oh, nice. Yep. I've not seen
Yeah.
that in years. That was definitely one of the childhoods. What was that on
I
again? Was that network? I don't
I
remember.
I remember like some splat in an eye. I want to.
Nickelodeon. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. You just said splat, and I was like, okay, I remember this one.
I remember there would just be a splat on the screen, and then there was someone named Carlos who would always talk, and then there would be like they'd play Kim Possible. That's as far back as my memories go in childhood.
Perfect.
So I used to always I had never missed an episode. Kim
Mm-hmm.
Possible was my jam.
Who was the? I don't know. Were they in a relationship? Who was the boy? Who was the blonde guy? What was his name? Do you remember his name?
Ron.
Ron. Is it Ron? Right. Okay. I did
Ron.
not expect that. Gosh, I'm gonna have to watch an episode of that tonight now. I've not seen that in years. It's like a
Yeah.
decade since I've seen that. Kim Possible, folks. If you've not heard of it, gosh, you're missing out. Most
Yeah.
important.
Or
On you go.
Recess or Johnny Bravo is also good.
Yes.
Watch those.
Recess. Oh my lord! Talk about childhood in a nutshell. Johnny Bravo, right? So a lot of people who, once again on the podcast, have said Johnny Bravo. I only watched it. I don't remember watching it a ton, but I did watch it probably about 10 times. Like another one for me was Fairy Odd Parents, and then like Dexter's Laboratory,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then classics like Rugrats, you name it, all the Scooby Doo, you name it, all those great ones. But no one said Kim. Is it Kim Possible? Yeah, Kim Possible, isn't it?
Yep.
It's the first one who said that, so I appreciate it. Crystal, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a blast talking to you. Thank you for sharing everything that you said. As always, folks, make sure to go give her a follow. Once again, everything will be in the description. If you guys want to check out our Patreon as well, I'll put that link down below. If you guys are new to the channel and are wanting to listen to more content for the podcast, as always, don't forget to subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Smash the like button. And with that said, folks, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.